So I came across this thing on Thingiverse, and I thought it would be kind of fun to show you how to make this as far as the mold is concerned. And there was a question below that I saw, somebody asking how to do this. Hence I came along to answer the question, because I thought it would be fun. So we're going to make a mold. Alright, now, what to make a mold of? Well, there's a bunch of stuff on Thingiverse, but I always see this thing, the Tardis, right? So, what if you had the ability to just pour a bunch of Tardises? So there's a casting resin that works out really well for that. And it doesn't, I guess it wouldn't matter which one. This one's a really nice one, but the details kind of relying on all the pieces fitting together. So what I need to do is have one that's already put together. I like this one. So download this thing. And I already did that earlier, actual Tardis. Now I'll jump into Blender. Ooh, that's an ugly version of Blender. There we go. So I'll switch this back to my settings. Now keep in mind, if you're watching all of the series, at the very beginning of the series I showed you how to use the Welsh keyboard shortcut. And it also explains why I'm doing that too. So if you're interested in that, I think it's 0102 in the series. And just follow the link in Thingiverse. There's and I'll probably provide it below in the video too. That way it's universal. So I'm just deleting all the stuff out of Blender, all that stuff. X on the keyboard to delete stuff out, or delete. And then we're going to import the actual Tardis. Okay. Now, what we do is hit Z on the keyboard to make it all solid looking, and create cube. 7 in the keyboard on the number pad, 5 on the number pad to get it into orthographic mode. Z to go back to wireframe. And what I'm doing here is making a cube. That encompasses all of the Tardis, or all of whatever model you want. Now something easier, if you hit tab, you can go into the vertices by going here. And what I'll do is do this all the way to the very bottom, but leave a little hair of a model down there. Also, you want to leave a sufficient amount of room here, because if you put the molding material in, depending on how good you sealed it, this right here, this area, will make it so it has a longer seep. And the longer seep between here and here, it might have a better seal. So that's why you make it a little bit longer. And again, that's depending upon what you're using as far as a casting material. Okay, there we go. So the Tardis is called actual Tardis, and this one's cube. Okay, so I'm going to take the cube and take a boolean cut difference from the actual Tardis. Now, depending on how well it was portrayed, so let's see if that worked. Let's apply and find out if that worked or not. And I can see it didn't work all that well. Because the model has to be completely and utterly sealed. I mean, absolutely, positively sealed beyond belief. So we're going to have to do that first. So the first thing I usually do is do a vertex reduction on it. Like tools and remove doubles. Wow. 18,000. Okay, then I check for anything that went wrong during that reduction. I'm guessing that the person that made this had put some tiny details in here. Yep, all kinds of craziness. And then some of this stuff won't even go through as far as 3D printing is concerned. It's very cool to look at. But yeah, a lot of this stuff will not transfer through. After doing the polygon reduction using that method of removing doubles, I'll try it again, but there are several methods we can use. There we go. Another way to do that is drag it through Netfab Basic. And if you have ZBrush, you can make a Dynamesh out of it. But I'm trying to concentrate on only freeware application or open source applications here. Okay, there we go. And now I can create a cube. So this cube of the cube is for cutting. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it and make it 1/2 of the box. And sometimes when you have an animal or whatever creature that you're molding, you have to look for an overhang. So a Tardis is a good start. But when you get better at this, I would say challenge yourself to maybe a duck or totem pole or whatever else, and then go on to, don't go action figure altogether, because it will be tough for you to do that at first, because you have to separate the action figure out into little parts before you can mold it. Alright, there we go. And now hit tab, highlight a vertex, mesh, snap, cursor to selected, tab, object, transform, origin to 3D cursor. Shift D. Let's do that again. Tab, vertex, mesh, snap, cursor to selected, tab, object, transform, origin to 3D cursor. Okay, and on the keyboard, this location value is, and if I look at this green arrow, this is the Y, it's at 0.016. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to take this one and put it at a Y value of that by pasting it in. Now they're directly on top of each other. Okay, then I'll move this box up, and I can even get it to get it to the right size. Well, I guess it is a little bit. It's on Arkham's razor. So let's go to Object, Join, Tab, raise it up some. It just has to be bigger than the overall mold. Tab. Tab again, go into the vertices and hit L. This will highlight it all. We just have to separate it out now. Separate by loose parts. So I joined it to get it perfect as far as separate values are concerned. Alright. If you're still with me, Shift D to duplicate it. And I would do one more, that way you have an original and then you have the two halves. Okay, you take this one and delete it. Take this one and delete it. For simplicity's sake, I would call this 0, 1 left under the cube, and this one 0, 1 right. And the reason I renamed that is because this one I'm going to go to boolean and difference using 0, 1 left. Okay, leaving only that, which is not good. So let's unapply that, and let's go the right one just to see if that works. So let's take this one. Okay, so the right one works and the left one doesn't. That's telling me that there's something on the left one, on this half, that might be a hole of some nature. So just to make sure I'm not crazy, I'm going to go like this. Nope, not crazy. Good. And then I'm going to go like this. Object, apply, rotation and scale. I'm going to hit Z on the keyboard and turn on a thing called shading backface culling. And I'm just going to look to see if the model looks okay there. Okay, just that alone might have worked. So I'm going to try it again. And it did. Yeah. Alright, now that we have... Oh, well, it looked like it did it at first, and then it didn't. Weird. Okay. So when it doesn't do it, and then it does it, and then doesn't do it, well, then what do you do? Well, then I'll export it as a still to my desktop, call it fix, and then I'll use Netfab Basic, which is free. Just have to go to the website to download it. Netfab Basic, just search for that in Google, and in here I will go to my desktop. Aha, see that? Okay, so first I'll fix it, automatic repair it, apply that repair, and then right click on it, export part to still, fix, and it'll pop up this one, and this is the one I need to fix, or optimize. Alright, let's go back. I'll delete this one out using X on the keyboard and import it back in. It should be importing right on the same coordinates. Good. Boolean, difference, left. Apply it, and breathe. And there we go. So now we have to just put the little keys in there, they're called. So object transform origin to geometry, object transform origin to geometry, and I'm going to put these back together. Now I could use this same method I used before to put them together. Okay, as far as like snapping them perfectly next to each other. So I'll do that. Object snap, cursor to selected, and then tab, object transform, origin to 3D cursor. Let's do that over here. Mesh, snap, cursor to selected, object transform, origin to 3D cursor. Okay, look for the Y value here, -8, and go over here, type in that. Perfectly together now. Okay, now you can use anything for a key, but a lot of times we use spheres because they're a little easier to key out. So what you do, you get a sphere. And you put it right directly in the center of the mold. Just like that. Oh, and what I mean is center of the center line, and then here it doesn't matter. Now in order for this to work, we need to kind of, because it's a 3D printed material, it expands. What we get is not what we technically get. We need 2 of these actually. So we need one, and then the other one is, I would say, 0.5 of that one. And if you want to get really technical, I would say 8 if you're using a 0.5 print head. But if you're not, 0.5 will do. Check your local user's manual. Alright, now this one is a small sphere. That one's the 0 and large. Okay, now the 0 and small is going to be the positive key, and this one's going to be the negative key. So we have to move these together and make sure they are on perfect 100% 0 on that line. So this right here, this box, this cutaway box, can now go away because it's blocking my view. This one is the actual model, and I move these together always. Move them here first, and then I'll check it in this view. Sure enough, that works. Now you can also see that this one and this one need to line up this way also. So Control C, Control V. There we go. I'm going to divide this video up into 2. I'll be right back. Alright, you didn't see anything but a hiccup, but I had to divide that video up. So this is my large one, this is my small. And what I'm going to do here is I got to make a copy of this always, because what will happen is if I don't, one of them will disappear. So Shift D to duplicate both of those. And it doesn't matter what I do here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, the 0 and small, and I'm going to apply it as a union on this side. So that's how it works. Boolean, union, 0, 1 small. Okay, there it goes. Maybe it didn't disappear. That's cool. So this one, I'm going to take and make a Boolean on the other side. So Boolean, difference of 0, 1 large. Apply it. Good, so both of them retain themselves. I'm just going to end up putting this one over here, and I know that one's called something different. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do it over here. Now, see how long that took? It's because I didn't apply the model. So undo a couple times. So make sure they're both applied. Move it over here. Let's do that again. It doesn't matter what order you do that in, by the way. Like this one could go on to the other side this time. So this one, boolean difference 0, 1 large. In fact, having the different keys like that is preferred. That way it makes the keys unique. That one looks like that one. This one looks like that one. And just to make sure you're doing all this, really doing it, I'm talking to myself here. This is what I would do. Object apply rotation or location. I'll move this out. Hit Z, and to see if it does have the key. It has a key negative, positive there, positive, negative there. Good. Now, is it really the key? So this one I would do that too. Object apply location. And you'll see why I do that here in a sec. So I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm just checking to see it. Yes, in fact, this one has a sphere going out, and in. Now, N on the keyboard allows you to put it back. Boom. Boom. So now you can put it back together and do the other ones. Because you need at least 3 keys. And 4 being preferred in some cases. And you can have as many as you want. So those are just words. There we go. Now by shrinking that uniformly like I did, I shrunk it this way. It shrunk it uniformly based upon the ratio it was too. So that 0.5 gap is still there. Okay, here we go. Doesn't matter how we go, this boolean difference. 0, 1 large. Apply. This one, boolean union, small. Apply it. Drag it over here. I'll put this one a little bit here, offset from that one. Oop. Throw one small. And apply it. So there we have our complete mold. I'm a big fan of duplicating it. So Shift D to duplicate it away from it, and I can see there was an apply there because I see that how slow that went. So I'm going to right click and Control Z. Okay, now I make sure this is applied. Yep. And make sure I got all my dots. Yep, cool. Shift D. I'll take and go like that. Z on the keyboard, N on the keyboard. Move this out of the way. And there's my two halves. Now I will say, when you go to print this, it might warp. It's a really big solid chunk of matter here we're talking to make this Tardis. So you might want to stick to very small things at first. You can shrink this down, of course, uniformly. So you would have to grab both of them and shrink it down. You can also thin up your walls as much as you can, providing that you don't thin up your key and thin up the walls around your key. So in this case, this is about the max, the minimum distance I would put around those keys, because again, you have to contemplate that thing called seepage, and the seepage will come out of the mold, and based upon the area here, it will seal that. You're still going to have to put some clips around it, or some rubber bands, or both, to keep it absolutely tight against each other. So I'm going to origin to geometry on these. And -90, 90, and I'll just export those as still. Tardis mold. And then we'll go left. I don't know if that's the left. And this one right. Looks like. And then you should use NetFab Basic or a program to make sure everything's okay. If I share this on Thingiverse, you know, it's going to be shared already done for you, but that doesn't tell you what the next step is. It just says, hey, this is actually working Tardis mold, but here's how I did it. Because you're always going to have some form of maluniformity here. It's almost, especially with all those little details in there. And it doesn't really fix it until you export it. Alright, there you go. You have now a working copy of Tardis mold. And I'll share that in Thingiverse, and I'll also share the video on how I did it and add this to the collection of Learning Blender for 3D print. Alright, I hope you enjoyed and have a good one.